The movie What's the Time in Your World is an Iranian film made in 2014 by the director Safi Yazdanian, which used to be a critic for many years, and this film is actually his first film after writing so many reviews on different films. What's the Time in Your World is actually an exception among all the movies which are being made in Iran, and most of them are actually heavily influenced by Farhadi's direction, since he's been quite successful in the past years. This is Rasht. According to Haft or Seven, which is an Iranian TV show about film criticism, one of the positive things about the film is the fact that Tehran, the capital city of Iran, is skipped, and Guli directly comes from Paris to Rasht, which is one of the northern cities in Iran. The director was also born and raised in Rasht, and that's probably the reason he chose this city to portray this love story between Guli and Farhad. About the location, Parviz Jahid, another Iranian critic, believes that Rasht in this movie is not actually the Rasht that exists. The polluted, busy city in the north of Iran is actually kind of modified through the director's lens. The director basically knows the city, and he has tried to portray the beauties of the city through his film, through his lens. And the way he portrays other minor characters, such as vendors on the street and other people in the cultural context of the film, simply implies how deep he knows about this culture and the people. So the director basically creates the city again through his film. One of the most famous scenes which makes an emphasis on location is the famous scene in which Guli and Farhad are walking through an old bazaar in Rasht, a scene which has been accused of having a touristic vision towards location. The aesthetic aspects of the film is absolutely noticeable. Edgar Degas' painting plays an important role in this film and the way it narrates the love story. It's actually as a motif which keeps on being repeated over and over throughout the film. The woman in the picture is basically the dream of Guli through Farhad's imagination. That actually represents that how he has been spending his whole life thinking about Guli and trying to keep her on his mind, which actually kind of reveals another point about the film. The film is basically kind of following the style of an impressionistic painting. It's as if the film is a compilation of colorful stains grouped together, and if the spectator tries to just focus on one of these spots, one of these stains, there's nothing left of the film. However, Nick James believed that the appearance of film is kind of outshining its content, and many critics believe that the film is nothing but a bunch of beautiful clips sewed together. So it's possible to say that Farhad himself is also an impressionist, and he is the director of this impressionistic painting, or film. It's actually a movie which can be reduced to many concepts and many things. One of them is the main character Farhad. Farhad itself can also be reduced to the dialogue that he uses, Niavek Tuani Santwa. It basically seems that he's been like this for his whole life. According to Puya Zulfaqari, we can say that because he's been living with the dream of being with Goli, and at the same time, he was not able to do so. So he basically pours out all his emotions and all his life through this dialogue. Niavek Tuani Santwa.
اگه بذارین یه دقیقه ببینمتون که عالی میشه. یه چیزی هم هست باید بهتون بدم. اگرم حوصله نداشتین که خب من صبر میکنم. صبر میکنم دیگه، نکنم چیکار کنم.
In many reviews, it's found that Farhad is actually the only character which has been successfully portrayed and created, unlike the rest of the characters. The rest of the characters are basically people who failed to achieve their goals and dreams in their life, such as the barber person who aspired to become an artist and now he's running a barber shop because it was just merely a family business. Masoud Farasati, which is one of the most famous film critics in Iran, believed that Leila Hatami and Ali Musafa, as two major Iranian actors, are kind of preventing the creation of this poetic side of the film, and it would have been a much better idea if two unknown people could play these characters. Masoud Farasati, the Iranian film reviewer, believes that the very last dialogue of the film is probably the only proper last dialogue of all Iranian films, and many other reviewers has also maintained the same thing. According to Nima Azad, another Iranian film reviewer, the story can be easily broken down to 3 separate parts. With Goli, we're actually moving forward, or we're basically experiencing the present time of Rasht, meeting people again, satisfying this nostalgic feeling inside. With Farhad, we're looking at all the time that Goli did not exist, and the third important part is actually the dream. The dream scene is also very noticeable. The way Farhad regards friends, the way Farhad regards immigration, and the way that people say goodbye or farewell to their life, to their country, by gathering around the carriage, and Goli is actually about to be left behind. Everything is kind of summarized at the very beginning of the film. Goli as a painting which is coming to life, throughout the foggy glass of the bus, Farhad the impressionistic painting by opening a window to the morning sun and the birds, and the city, which is an Iranian cultural city with some European architecture.
سلام. حالتون خوبه؟ من فرهادم. نشناختین منو؟ فرهاد.
The way that different people from different cultures regarded this film and the relationship between Goli and Farhad was kind of controversial. Nick James, one of the famous film reviewers, believed that the way Farhad tries to approach Goli and express his love can be easily regarded as a kind of disturbia or causing irritation to another person that would make people feel at the beginning of the film that this might be a thriller or a movie about a psychopath lover.
میچوما پایه
However, there has been other non-Iranian film critics which did not regard Farhad as a possible criminal or a possible psychopath, just like Elizabeth
Allô
Kerr, which is one of the few non-Iranian reviewers who has submitted a review about this film.
Allô
Ni avec toi ni sans toi.
Quoi
Ni avec toi ni sans toi.
Perhaps the soundtrack and the music of the film is the best thing that's happening about it. Christophe Rezai has combined folk music from north of Iran with some old French melodies because the director wanted the music to resemble a combination of both cultures, the combination of Iranian and Western culture. Goli as a person coming from Western world into a very local part of Iran. Folkloric music of Iran meets some French old melodies, and we have a famous song title in the soundtrack which is called Kise, which is another important thing about the soundtrack, because basically Kise means who is this, both in French and in the local language of people in Rasht. It should be noted that throughout making this film, the director was heavily under the influence of his favorite directors, Wim Wenders and Andrei Tarkovsky, who has made Paris, Texas and Mirror respectively, two of the major pictures which director has mentioned throughout his interviews about this film. About his first film, What's the Time in Your World?
اون کیفت دیدیم رنگ امید و بیم خانه تیفندلیم کیسه 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 اون کی دیهتی جان مستی بهاران لسی خمارانه کیسه کیسه کیسه
یادم 40 سالگی یه جوری باشه غیر از من تو 20 سالگی که همه شاعرم
از چیسه گیرم بزنیتم دانم خانم اون کی فدتی دیم رنگ امید و بیم خانه تیفندلیم کیسه 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 اون کی دیهتی جان مستی بهاران لسی خماران کیسه 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 کیسه
This time, this time, it won't. I was hoping to show you that I was your father.
If you turn the light off in there, will you be able to see me?